This is what we're going to make today. It is a super simple journal made out of cardstock with top loading pockets on each page. I'm going to show you how to put the base together and how I put pockets throughout, and then we'll have a flip through at the end once the journal is fully decorated. So stay tuned. In order to make this easy no-sew journal, you're going to need some cardstock. I'm using 110-pound cardstock just for sturdiness, but you could probably use something a little lighter. I'm going to use this 12 by 12 paper. This came from Michael's. It's called Warm Tapestry, and it's got some beautiful fall colored papers inside. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on this. It is much easier to cover your papers first with the cardstock first before you start folding and manipulating the cardstock. It will make your life so much easier if you do this. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Okay. I really like this paper here, so I am going to go ahead and start gluing some of these papers down, and I will fast forward this. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is to trim around all of this. I'm going to use my paper trimmer for that because I can't cut straight with scissors. Okay, these are fairly dry. Hopefully I won't mess this up. But we want to get our scoreboard, or you can fold it in half, whatever you're comfortable with. So since this is US letter size 8.5 by 11, we're simply going to score right down the middle at 5.5 inches. This is pretty thick. Okay. Do each one. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is round all of my corners. All right. Next step is to ink. If you enjoy inking, go ahead and do that now. I'm actually trying to ink everything, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right. Now our next step is going to be folding where our score line is. This is where your paper being dry comes in really handy. Make sure your edges are aligned. Give that a good burnish. Okay, next one, fold it in on itself very carefully. I used art glitter glue, so it dries fairly quickly. If you're using another glue that takes a little bit longer, make sure you allow everything to dry thoroughly before you start folding your papers. Okay, so here we have our 6 pieces of cardstock that have all been covered. And I'll just put these in some sort of order. We're going to be gluing them together like so. Put that one there, put that one there. And then this becomes our spine, which we will cover. But we also now have a front cover and a back cover that we need to take care of. So this is my back. So I'm going to cut it to 5.5 by 8.5. Okay, the next step is going to be, we're going to glue these sides together and make top loading pockets. You could make them, you could glue them here and here and make a side loading. I'm going to go with the top because I like stuff hanging under the top of my journals. Okay. And for each one, we're going to make a little notch to make sure that everybody understands that's a pocket. But when you do that, all of this white is going to show. So the next thing that we need to do is just cover a little bit of the top of each of those. And to do that, I'm going to use some scrap coffee dyed paper. All right, guys, so I'm going to let this dry really, really good, and then I'm going to go cut my thumb notches for the tag pockets, and then I'll come right back. Okay, everything is dry, and I decided to go ahead and sew around each of the pieces of cardstock just to ensure that that paper doesn't come loose. You don't have to do that if you're really careful with gluing. It's not necessary, especially if you're somebody who doesn't like to sew. So the next thing we're going to do now is join these pages together like so. I'm going to do each one the same way. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this. Across the bottom and up the other side, because these are top loading pockets. You know, if you're able to get yours lined up perfectly, good for you. I've never been able to do that, but I'm okay with it. All right, then bring in the next page. All right, let's go ahead and put some clamps on these. And we're just going to leave that alone to dry and set up before we mess with it further. Okay, this is set up and really dry. So what I'm going to do now is go through and I'm going to put you on time lapse, and I'm going to go ahead and add some pockets throughout here. Okay. Okay, so I've gone through and added my pockets. Here I'm going to sew in a small signature with some coffee dyed paper. This is the center of the journal. Got some side tucks, more pockets, a belly band, and another pocket. Okay, we still have to decorate the front. So while those pockets are drying, I'm going to go ahead and cut some papers for a signature right there in the center. And I'm going to continue to use as many of these scraps that we have left over to make tags and things like that. All right, I cut some papers, just some coffee dyed papers, and to help this fit in the journal with a little bit of space all the way around, the papers were folded, and I took 1/4 of an inch off of this side and 1/4 of an inch off of the bottom. So in essence, 5 1/4 inches wide by 8 1/4 inches tall, folded. And that fits in there nicely. And I just did a 3-hole pamphlet stitch right here. I will leave these undecorated. They are purely for journaling space. Or they can be decorated if the person who has the journal wants to do that. The only other thing that I did was after I sewed the signature and I covered up the spine with some lace. And I just glued it here on the front and here on the back. I did not glue this part here. Okay, and then I put some eyelets in. So the next thing that I would normally do is go through here and decorate my pockets with lace or whatever I needed to do. And I also, this is a cut apart from another kit, but the colors went well with this. And then I cut a piece of paper from the paper pad that I'm using to kind of do a frame around that. So I'm going to glue this down, eyeball the middle, and then I have a little fall flower that I'm going to put here on the top. Okay, guys, so that's all for this video today. What I'm going to do next is, like I said, go through and put some lace on the pockets, maybe add a few other little things, make my tags for the pockets and large tags for the top here. And then I'll come back and show you what this looks like fully decorated. All right. Okay, I'm back and everything is finished being decorated. I put a dangle here on the front through a little eyelet that I punched in the front cover. This is just a spine dangle that I already had made up, and I thought it went good with the journal. On the front here, I have a fall flower, and I showed you this before, and attach that to the front and just put a little bling there on the corner. It is tied with seam binding that I attached through eyelets in the front and the back cover. Okay, so in the inside we have this pocket with some lace and some bling, and I added this tag here, this tag, and over here we have this tag, and I did sew around almost all of my tags and back them with like coffee dyed paper. I have this one and this one. Okay. This pocket too has some lace with a little bit of bling there. And these are all top loading pockets, and that's that tag. Lots of writing space on the back, and I put a little pumpkin sticker right there. Okay, on the next page, we have these two pockets that I attached more lace and some bling. And all of these tags were made totally from the scraps I had left over making the base of this journal. So we have this tag, this tag. I have a journaling card here, and this tall, skinny tag. And normally I add seam binding to the tops of my tags, but this was already getting pretty bulky, so I just put some hole reinforcers in the top of the tags, or an eyelet in this case here. Okay. Another journaling card. And a tall tag. And in the top of this page, we have this tag. Another little pumpkin sticker on the back. Here we have little small side tucks. Have these two little tags here. And lace and bling. And this is the center of the journal, and I added 8 pages or 32 pages, front and back, coffee dyed paper. They are not decorated, they're just plain. And I put them in using a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. This is the other side of that page with these tags. Have this tag here in the top. I love these big tags. Another sticker there in the bottom. Here we have 2 side tucks. I have this journaling card. This tag. And there's room to put more stuff in there. Then we have this large tag. And over here we have a little tuck, a little belly band, horizontal belly band across this pocket. And I've attached some different pieces of ephemera. A little image of a postcard. And 2 little mini tags. And then here in the back, this was a tag from my stash. Tag. And over here in this pocket, we have this tag. This did not come. This was also from my stash. Got that tag. And then this is the last page. We have a pocket here, and I have a little sticker here that's raised. And this is just a copy of some French ephemera. Lots of writing space on the back there. Over here we have a double belly band. Have another French invoice. This was a book page tag from my stash. It has a pocket here on the front with mushrooms. Little tag there. Little butterfly on the front. There's the back. The stamp. And then I just tucked that under the top belly band. Okay, I don't think I pulled this tag out. We have this last large tag here with another sticker. Okay. And the journal lays relatively flat because of the way the no-sew binding is. But anyway, that's the journal. It's a perfect little size, and you have plenty of tags and journaling space inside. This will be listed in my Etsy shop. And guys, thank you so much for watching the tutorial on how the base comes together, and then this flip through of the finished journal at the end. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.